Us with you in terms of a bit of criticism that has come in as far as the legacy of the royal family, and also more importantly, what is the future of the royal family with Charles at the helm now. Let's talk about this in detail now. Even as the death prompted an outpouring of grief from millions across the world, it also revived criticism of her legacy, highlighting the complicated feelings of those who saw her as a symbol of the British colonial empire, an institution that enriched itself through violence and oppression. Not just that, scandals involving the Queen's extended family frequently also cast a shade over her reign. Let's take a look.
Beware the eternal romanticizing of the QE2 era. There can be no hiding the fact that the longest reigning British monarch put a stolid traditionalist front over decades of violent upheaval. Didn't the Queen also help obscure a bloody history of decolonization? Reality says her reign witnessed the dissolution of nearly the entire British Empire into some 50 independent states. Once glorious British global influence fell with a thud. Behind pictures of the Queen with Commonwealth heads were anti-colonial uprisings in Malaya, Kenya, Cyprus, Aden and more, all brutally suppressed. Next, the royal family in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Topping the rot on set, the failed Diana-Charles marriage and his connection with Camilla Parker Bowles. Less than a decade after they were married in 1981, the couple and the royal family was in the tabloids, and the news wasn't positive. Diana's eating disorders and suicide attempts became talking points, then the divorce and Diana's car crash death. In 2020, Charles's younger son, Prince Harry, and his wife Meghan announced a stepping back from senior royal duties. British tabloids termed it Megxit, with the couple and their child moving to the US. And perhaps the biggest of them, Charles's younger brother, Prince Andrew, accused of sexual assault by Virginia Giuffa, a minor at the time of the incident, who claimed Andrew and his billionaire friend Jeffrey Epstein used her as a sex slave. Andrew was stripped of his Royal Highness title, honorary military roles and royal patronages. Even as the Queen held up a dignified tenor, other members of her family, her daughter, her sister, her husband Prince Philip, invited controversy. Queen Elizabeth II visited India thrice, in 1961, 1983 and 1997. It was only during her third visit in 1997 that the Queen talked of what she termed difficult episodes of colonial history and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre as a distressing example. The Queen and Prince Philip had paid a visit to the Jallianwala Bagh and placed wreaths at the memorial. This came in the backdrop of calls for an official apology for the 1919 massacre. Controversy had also erupted over Prince Philip raising questions on casualty figures, calling the stated 1,000-plus number exaggerated. In the last decades of her reign, the Queen watched Britain and the royal family struggle to come to terms with her post-imperial position. So much so that calls have now arisen on the relevance of the British monarchy ahead and the need to give it a whole new facelift.
CNN's Rylee Carlson also now joining us on the broadcast live from London. Rylee, we appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast. What is the mood like in London?
Well, Radhima, there's very much a sense of collective sadness in the city today. There's a feeling for many people that Queen Elizabeth II was such a big part of their lives that they lost almost somebody that they knew. She's seen this country through the past 7 decades through many highs and many lows. And of course, the people in this country have seen the monarchy through many highs and many lows at that time as well. So there is very much a connection that the people in this city in particular and also in this country have to Queen Elizabeth. Many of them have continued to make their way to Buckingham Palace and to Windsor Castle to lay flowers and to pay their own tributes as a period of national mourning gets underway in this country.
Right. You know, yesterday, as soon as that unexpected statement came from Buckingham Palace, we saw all members who were close to the Queen and members of the royal family rush to Scotland. Now, do we have any more details about the royals who are back at Buckingham Palace? Have they returned from Aberdeen?
Well, we know that Prince Harry's plane from Scotland arrived earlier today. King Charles has also landed, and his motorcade is making its way through London. He's just about reached Buckingham Palace, actually, so he is making his way there for the first time as king, and that's where he will kick off many of his royal duties beginning today for his first full day as monarch of this country. We're expecting a televised address from him at some point this afternoon, and then he will also spend some time in meetings and getting those royal duties underway.
We do know Operation London Bridge is now in play. What are the specific arrangements that are being made for the Queen's funeral?
Well, that's part of the reason why we don't really have all of the details yet, is even though the operation and the planning of her funeral has been quite meticulous over the last couple of years, the very fact that she passed away in Scotland and not in London has changed a bunch of those plans and made them a bit fluid and changed the logistics of them. So that's why we don't yet have a date for the state funeral. Many of the ceremonial celebrations that are happening between now and then are also fluid. So we are just waiting for confirmation from the palace on when all of this will officially take place.
Any clarity as far as the tour that the king will now undertake as part of different places in the United Kingdom?
Well, we don't have any of those details yet. Charles has actually just arrived at Buckingham Palace. He is greeting some of the crowds that have come out to say goodbye to his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, dressed in black, along with the new Queen Consort, formerly Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. Where he goes from here, of course, his first plan of action will be getting things sorted and getting things underway here in London, making sure all of the preparations are in place for the state funeral of his mother, and of course attending that. But there is no doubt that as king, he will make his way around the United Kingdom. He is, of course, well known to be very fond of Wales. He's also traveled to Northern Ireland and will make his way back up to Scotland many times in the next little bit, I'm sure, as well.
Rylee, lastly, as we stay with those visuals coming in from outside Buckingham Palace, the king interacting with many who want to catch a glimpse of the royal family members, what are going to be the challenges for King Charles?
Enjoy the moment.
Rylee, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have lost that connection with my colleague from CNN, Rylee Carlson. But as she was saying, the details are still sketchy because a lot of these plans that were meticulously put in place way back in the 1960s actually seem to have gotten a bit haywire because the Queen passed away in Scotland. Look at the visual.